Welcome back, Still Business Incorporated. It's time for the markets now. Will Ibong has the numbers. Oh, most of the markets are closed today.
Yes, I was going to say that, Ini, are you trading on, I don't know, which markets are you trading today? And you're wearing red, so let's just hope that
I'm an institutional trader. So I can create my market, create my value.
So today we have your own market close at the close of business. I'll watch
you find out the
that
commodity when you get into the market.
Of course, definitely. But let's look at markets. Major markets in Africa are closed for the Muslim holiday, except for the GSE in South Africa. We see that trading up at intraday, 0.27%. Nigeria closed on Thursday, 1.63% up, still at the 114,000 level. It's a frenzy at the NGX. But let's look at EGX. It's also closed Thursday last week in green territory, up 1%. We see that closed at 2,000 level, and we see the NSE in Kenya also closed Thursday, but in green territory. But let's dive into what's happening at the NGX. We see it's frenzied move, moving into 114,000 level. That's uncharted territory for the NGX. But we have Mr. Mukhtar Mohammed, CEO, Finance with Mukhtar, to have this conversation with us. Mr. Mukhtar, it's really a big frenzy for the NGX. Tell us what's happening there. Is it not at overbought levels now?
No. If you look at those numbers, you see that three sectors were really moving the market during these 4 days of trading we had. We had the financial sector, we had the ICT sector, which is the communication sector, and the consumer goods sector. And when you look at those sectors, there's still values. And when you look at the stocks that moved in those sectors, in the financial sector, the figures were really up there. The Zenith Bank, Access Bank, GTCO, and UB, and also First Bank. Then you go to ICT, telecom giant, MTN, 52-week high. I mean, so much to unpack on with MTN numbers. Decision from NCC. Consumer goods, Dangote cement moved the world. Remember when Aligo Dangote said about where the net exporter of cement in Africa. That also will trigger market sentiment towards those stocks. So when you look at those things, it wasn't interesting because most of the stocks that really moved the market, the fundamentals are there. Not to forget the oil and gas sector, O&O, coming back to stream after that wonderful result.
Okay, we'll just take a pause on the next conversation. We still have a lot to talk about. We're just going for a live show. Ini, do you want to help us with that?
Yes. Well, we're heading to Enugu now, where there's a distribution of 10,000 professional kits to health workers. That's for the Southeast zone. But that's for our DSTV viewers. For other viewers, Business Incorporated continues. And if you're watching on YouTube, please switch to the next platform on YouTube, and then you stay here with us. Will.
Thank you so much, Ini. So we're just talking about, you talked about the fooders, and we did see a lot of institutional inflows into banking sectors. We see Fidelity Bank, one of the top traded stocks. We see the NGX. Look at the close for the week. The highlights, 2.57% up for the NGX. That's a massive one, 114,000 points. They said we are in uncharted territories, and the next psychological target is the 115,000 level. But just to think about it, is it not? And one of the analysis that we got is that it's trading on technical momentum and not on fundamental. You mentioned fundamentals here, but some people are of the opinion that it's trading on technical momentum and not fundamentals.
I don't understand where they get it when you look at the numbers. What is technical, what is fundamentals? I mean, when you look at the fundamentals, I talked about O&O and having an earning per share of 5 naira, getting to an earning per share of 18 naira. Is that technical? When you look at Zenith Bank, you look at the numbers that have come in the first quarter, by what we are expecting in the second quarter. I don't know how that is technical. So ICT, you look at telecom giant, MTN, move the numbers. Look at the result that came out after that data price hike approval by NCC. Looking at this corridor of stability we have in the exchange rate, and looking at the numbers that we are expecting after this, was it a decision between the NCC and the banks and the telecom company? What those debts will mean coming back to those numbers. So I don't know how that looks technical. So it depends on which sector you are. If you are playing some sectors that are not fundamental driven, you could say technicality are moving it. And you and I know some of those sectors. Those are the volatile insurance sector, oversold level, buying level. That you could talk about technical. But when you talk about these numbers that we are talking about, this equity that we are talking about, this sector that we're talking about, we talk about the financial sector, we talk about the ICT sector, we talk about the consumer good. And look at the consumer good also. You also mustn't forget that inflationary figures are coming down by the day, and we are beginning to have that stability in the exchange rate, and that is driving that sector also. So it depends, but I don't think most of what I've said, the three sectors that drive the market were not driven by technical. There's still a lot of fundamentals there.
Okay, talking about the consumer goods sector, we've seen a lot of the companies, international brews, Nigerian breweries, we've seen NNFM, that's the Northern Nigeria Flour Mills, also doing so well in this quarter. You talked about stability in the FX, we all seen it, but is there any other thing driving the consumer goods index to the point that we're wondering what's really behind this momentum in that sector?
Inflation coming down. When inflation comes down, that means a lot of people has fun. And you don't forget that the brewery sector also have a lot of liquidity. So when you talk about technical, you also look at the fundamental of that sector. They just recapitalize. So most of their borrowing is stopped. You remember, Nigerian brewery have not done any commercial paper for a while now. They are not used to that. They are not borrowing from any bank. The shareholder firm has gone positive. Investors are beginning to price in that stocks going forward. You talked about international brewery. Remember, there are also, the challenge with international brewery for me is the high number of outstanding shares that they have. So that has really brought down the potentials of that. But again, you have what we call the snowball effect when it comes to the market. In the fact that Nigerian brewery is selling for almost 60 naira, Guinness is selling for 91 naira, then the snowball effect is that I need to get into this brewery sector because I think something will happen. I look for the next available one. Nigerian international brewery. So that could also be a driver.
So that's what we're seeing in the consumer goods sector. But talking about institutional inflows into banking sectors, we did see that little controversy with Fidelity Bank. But right now we're seeing investors buying and buying. We see one of the top trades, top performers at the close of, last week performance. Fidelity topped the trades more than 3 times. 3 consecutive days they were on the top chart. What do you see? What's the change in Fidelity Bank? Yes, Fitch did release that rating,
Exactly.
upgrading their rating.
Exactly.
So is that the only thing that has moved? Is that what is driving investor sentiment at the moment?
That is part of it. Then don't forget that the MD managing director also bought so much of that shares. It's more or less like a share buyback. Okay. You say, look, I have confidence in it. And at the time they did that, they were really in a type of crisis that has to come with the ruling from the Supreme Court. So you bring confidence in that and say, look, this is what we have been able to do. I have confidence that these issues are going to be resolved and we're going to be better off. And then that Fitch rating came out, and it just became a game changer for Fidelity Bank. I think the rating helped, and also the ability of especially the management saying that we believe in this stock. At the time that report came in, invested about 360 million. That was huge. Confidence.
That's confidence in the market. But just all in all, Mukhtar, about the market, is this momentum, can we sustain it? Can the markets sustain this momentum? What do you see for this week? Because today is a holiday, obviously. Do you see the markets getting to 115,000? And some did say that by the end of the year, we would hit 150K.
Well, by the end of the year, I think that's possible. But again, we must be cautiously optimistic. I heard the chairman of NGS say we might hit that 100 trillion. And of course, he corrected that by that will come in if you have Dangote listed, petrochemical, and also NNPC. But for NNPC, we have been made to understand that it will not happen anytime soon. So maybe we're looking at Dangote petrochemical. Now, when you look at investment sentiment, will it be sustained? You talk about the institutional investor. This seems to be the one that have moved the market throughout that week. Will they still be coming in? That is what we should be saying. So if we don't have the institutional investor, we still have the retail investor. This week will be a huge week of profit taking. But if the institutional investors are still there, waiting for those more opportunities, thinking that because of the public holiday, we're not able to finish some of our deal, then the market will continue those bullish ones. So now, again, looking at the economy, the economics itself, you said, why is the market going faster? Seems to be different from the economy. You also understand that Tinubu policies, the current administration policy, have favored the market, especially the financial sector. It seems to be the only policy that hits the market, and the only policy that came in and hit the stock, the exchange, and has been moving ever since, floating up another mover subsidy. But when you look at other policies, There's still a slowdown, implementation, inflation, and all that. But with the stock market, they hit the ground running with those policies. So that, for me, was the game changer. So will the market continue like that? There's a point where market will go that it will take the life of the economy. And if the economy is not positive, then there will be a slowdown.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mukhtar Mohammed, CEO, Finance with Muta. It's always good to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
So let's move on to other markets now. We're seeing the Middle East negative sentiment at intraday. Major stocks are still closed for the public holidays. We see in Dubai, except for in the UAE, where we have Dubai and Abu Dhabi indexes trading. At intraday, we see it up 1.08% for Dubai, and Abu Dhabi is 0.41% in positive territory. Let's look at other markets now. They're closed. Saudi, the Tadawul was closed, up 1.59%, and Qatari index was down at the close of business last Thursday. Now let's look at U.S. futures, how they traded today. We see that China-U.S. trade talks in London. We see how that it had little effect on the market, but we did see some green. Look at the Dow Jones up 0.08%, and the S&P 500 0.09%, and the Nasdaq just trading in flat line in red 0.00%. But this move comes as all three major indexes notched their second straight winning week last week on Monday. Now, officials are still expecting this meeting to hold. We'll see how that influences. Further, investors are keeping their eye on that. And inflation data is also expected to be a key topic later this week. We're going to be having the latest consumer price index, which is due out on Wednesday, and this is followed by the producer price index on Friday. Traders will also be looking out for clues as to how the current tariff rates are flowing through the economy. Let's look at China. Now, I mean, the Asian markets, now I'm thinking China because of the talks. But Asian markets closed Monday as investors awaited the trade talks that was going on between Washington and Beijing later today, and they digested also economic data from China. We see trade tensions seemingly, easing between, these two major economies. We've looked at the Nikkei, how that impacted on the Asian stocks. We see it up 0.92%, 38,088 points. Kospi in South Korea up 1.55%, and the Hang Seng in China up 1.63%. Let's look at mainland China. How did that fare? Let's look at it very quickly. You see mainland China's stocks in the red, although they were in opposite direction. If you see that index there, it dropped. It also rose 0.43%. Apologies for that. It rose 0.43%. And we see that consumer price index inflation fell in China, and that impacted the positive closes we're seeing for the index. And we're also seeing the decline in forecast by economists. Producer price index also declined compared to 3.3% compared to 3.2% drop expected by analysts as well. And the country's export growth, but the country's export growth missed expectations in May as shipments to the U.S. declined sharply. India's Nifty was up also at the close of business by 0.4%. So basically what's happening right now in China is more like optimism because of the backdrop that, China and the US are going to be having talks, and they're seeing that, maybe they're going to smooth things over. Maybe there's going to be progress in these talks, not more of like, is it going to happen? And maybe more of easing of the tariffs, and then US and China coming to a consensus, a compromise, as the UK and US have had. And right now, UK is playing big brother to this.
Yeah, but I mean, I believe the UK even knows that they're not supposed to be too relaxed, because they also have, I think they have a countdown coming on.
They do have that.
Even though they are not included.
But they were included the steel tariffs, they were excluded from that.
I mean,
but it's
everybody have your own cross.
Thank you so much.
All right, Will, thank you so much.